Hi, everyone. All right. Hi. Okay. All right. I'm Jenny. There's always a running joke on who's the oldest advisor in the evolution. It's not me. All right. So thanks for being here, you guys. I know that Friday nights you guys have a lot of options, and being here with everyone, we're all happy to see you. So, where am I from? Okay. So I was born in Chicago, but I was raised in Colorado, hence my shirt. Um, I grew up in a Christian home. My father was a pastor, but he spoke mostly in Korean, so I couldn't really understand some of the gospel. But I did have a Christian household, and then there's a lot that's happened in my life. So I'm hoping that some of the things that I share with you today will help you in your walk with Jesus. So something about me, let me see here. Things I like to do. I love hanging out with my family, my little family over to the right corner. I love vacationing with my family and my friends. So I don't care where it is, as long as it's, somewhere really cool. I also like reading. As I'm getting older, I'm starting to read more. So any books that help me with my self-growth, development, whether if it's like for work or spiritual, I just like reading things where I can kind of grow from it. I'm also an avid snowboarder, so so if you guys are ever down to go snowboarding, I'll cut up the snow with you guys. And that's my friend. She and I would go. And then some of the things, Hugo. How can I forget about Hugo? Hugo's my 10-and-a-half-year-old dog. I rescued him in front of a grocery store. So yes, I did rescue a kitten off the freeway. Quick story on that is it was really, really slow. The traffic was going maybe like 10 miles per hour. And I saw this orange thing that was off to the side. So we were all in a standstill, and I just stopped my car, and I walked over there, and it was this little kitten that was hissing at me with an eye ripped out. I thought it was. Yeah, so I picked it up, I put a jacket over it, and anyways, I took it to a vet. I paid for all the vet bills, and then come to find out, it was just a scratch in the eye, and the blood had shut it. So anyways, long story short, that kitten got adopted. I also like skincare stuff, so if you guys ever want to gift me skincare, and then I love scented candles, scented soaps. I'll skip the working out part because I haven't been doing it. And then I also like cooking. Like, I like making meat dishes, but I'm a vegetarian. Yes, that's me. I'm the one that also takes out the egg yolk. So, so story about me. When I grew up, it was really hard. I didn't have much. My mom got sick with a mental disability called schizophrenia. I don't know if you guys know that. So a lot of people you see in homelessness, like the guys, usually they're always yelling at people or at things. Women, when they have schizophrenia, they hurt themselves. So that's the difference between schizophrenia in women and men. And so I've seen a lot of sad things in my life growing up. And she was incapable of caring for me, my brother and sister, so she got sent away. And then my dad was a single dad of 3. And I'm only telling you guys this because I don't know what your family dynamics are. Maybe your parents aren't together, or there's some things going on. I can relate. So I was really, really lost. So in my middle school picture, so I don't know what grade I was in, but I think I was like in 8th grade in that first picture, and then the last 2 are my high school pictures. And I had met this girl named Danita at school. She was my only Christian friend, and she invited me to church, just like here. And I went to church with her, and then I went to a summer retreat. And at that summer retreat is when I found Jesus, and I really accepted him into my heart. But then Danita, she moved away, so I didn't have a way to go back to that church. I just didn't know anybody, and I didn't go back to church, where I actually understood English, understood the gospel, and then so I was kind of left to be wandering a little bit. And that's why I think seeing you guys all here making friends is so important, because I didn't have that opportunity. So I got into a lot of fights. That's why when I have that mean look, it's because I've mastered it. So just kidding. So when I was in 6th grade, I was like one of the very few Asian, like full Asian students in the entire school. It was a very diverse school, and so I got picked on a lot, and the girls were always trying to jump me. I don't know if that's a word nowadays, but they were trying to jump me all the time. And so out of self-defense, I got into a few fights. One of the girls I really fought like really hard, and she's in that prom picture. Her name is Crystal. I'm not going to give you her last name because she might still have that last name. But Crystal and I were friends, but then we got into a fight. So I was always getting in trouble. I got kicked out of school in 8th grade and went to a different high school because I think some of the 7th grade girls know about my story because I shared it. And look at Evelyn. She's like, yeah. Yeah, I was not a nice girl. So, I was lost. I didn't have Jesus in my life. No one actually told me to walk with him, so I was kind of floating around. So then from high school, I went to college in Colorado. And, Jane. Her name is Jane, not Jan. I don't know what happened there. And I met... I don't know. Jane, her name got chopped up. But I call her a saint. That's why I put a little halo around her head, because she was a really cool friend. And she really walked with me during that time. It was an on-campus Christian ministry. And, I was still lost. But she was kind of like my light at that time. And then my wandering years where I was still lost then got broken. So then I graduated college, went off to go work in New York City, and I had this really cool job. And then my dad got diagnosed with a very rare brain disorder. It's kind of like, you guys don't know okay, it's called progressive supranuclear palsy. What that means is in 5 years, have you heard of it? PSP? Oh my gosh, that is such a rare disease. In a book? You guys are learning about it? Oh, praise God, because that's such a rare disease. It's kind of like, so my dad was driving, and he was talking, and then he went from that to a vegetative state in 5 years. So he went completely like motionless, but he was still alert. It's a really rare disease. So I put my life on hold in my mid-20s, and I took him from Denver to New York, and then I couldn't pick him up anymore, like help him in the shower where we were both falling, because he kept falling. And then so I called my brother here in LA, and I said, hey, bro, you need to help me out. So we both took care of him. Yeah, can you get that next slide? Yeah, so this is my dad. You can see I was like wheelchairing him everywhere. Like we went everywhere. And then he just kept getting worse and worse. And then I would tell you right now, my relationship with God was non-existent. Actually, it was existent. It did exist. I was mad at him. I was mad at him. I was mad at the world. I was broken. I didn't see or hear him. So you guys have to understand, like I felt like putting me in that situation was unfair. And it was unfair to my dad, who I thought was a wholehearted servant to God. So why does God allow suffering? I struggled with that. Okay? But then this verse kept coming up, either through people sharing it with me, or I would like stumble across it all the time. And that Bible verse is Jeremiah 29:11. You guys probably have seen it, right? For I know the plans I have for you. I declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. And so I would cling on to that verse all the time. Whether if I knew it or not, I would always find comfort in it. So one day I surrendered, and you guys are new. Okay, so some of you guys went to retreat. So one of the meanings of giving up was giving up things that are like holding you back. Then there's also things that you have that you just have to let go, right? It's called surrendering. So I gave up a lot of my disappointment, anger, sadness, disappointment, or just fatigue, meaning I was tired, and I actually just gave it up to myself. I can't do this anymore. So little by little, I kept giving it up, and I would yell at God. I would talk to God. I would scream at God. But he kept speaking to me through verses. He had a plan for me, and I didn't know what it was. So fast forward, my dad passes away, and I know he's rejoicing in heaven. It does make me sad that he's not here, and he wasn't able to meet my husband or my daughter, but I know that he will one day. And I'll tell you something. you guys are really young, okay? You guys will have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen next year or 10 years from now. But I want you guys to understand, like, God is present right now with you guys, no matter what you guys are going through. And so some of my blessings, Cole, is I'd like to share with you that the blessing that came from that verse that I hung on to is I met Sarge a month before my dad died, and Pastor Gary married us, and we are the most totally different people ever, like so different. But he grounds me, he makes me feel safe, he provides for me. And we, he's just somebody that God had planned for me. So that's a blessing, okay? And then we agreed not to have kids. We're like, no kids, because my family has Alzheimer's, dementia, progressive supranuclear palsy, schizophrenia, and I was like, I know for sure, like, the genes are going to carry on to my kids. And it wasn't until I had a conversation with Corey Hamada, who is Scott's brother. He was in 6th grade, you guys, when he had this conversation with me. We're going up to retreat, and we're having this conversation about kids, and he had reminded me that I don't determine the life that I bring into this world. It's God who's going to bring the life into this world. He's going to use whoever this child is. And that was like a moment where I actually changed perspective. And I was like, all right, I'm going to have to trust God. And it was Corey, a 6th grader, who told me this. And I'm still amazed. I don't know if, Scott, you knew that. He told me that on our car ride up, that he wasn't afraid to have kids, that he would like to be a father one day. So I was like, wow. Blown away, right? And I was an advisor at the time, you guys. So then the next blessing, more blessings, Keneal, she's 7 years old, and she is just my little sweet. Oh, I adore her, and I really hope that she grows up to be a light in everyone's world that's dark. Like, I want God to use her because she has such a special spirit. And then I have to say a lot of more other blessings that I want to share with you guys today is I'm an evolution advisor here. So it's an honor and privilege for me to serve you guys. So God had used me to bring me to this point to share you guys my story. I have a picture for you guys. It's a kind of a surprise. So you can put it up. Guess who's in the picture?
He's wearing white?
Yes, he does have other clothes other than black. Yes, he's smiling. Jordan is smiling. So I've been serving evolution on and off for like 10 years, you guys. And so I've watched a lot of people grow from 6th grade to now. I think I'll give away my age, high school. And Jordan, this is his 8th grade picture. So he was one of the students that really touched me. He confided in me. And was really just really present. And I really, really admire that about him. And I never thought he would be here being an advisor alongside us. So what I want to tell you is why I serve Evo. It's because I don't want any of you guys to go through Evo not knowing how much you guys are loved. Every one of you guys are loved here. And I missed the boat when I didn't go back to that retreat. I didn't go back to that church to walk with Jesus, and you guys have this opportunity now, and I don't want you guys to lose that opportunity. And I lost a long amount of period where I could have friends and advisors walk with me. I mean, granted, God brought me back. He's walked with me the whole time, but I think I could have skipped a few cries. And I just didn't know him at the time. I thought he was just Christmas and Easter, but he's much more than that. So I encourage you guys to establish your relationships here, your friendships here, with us, with the other students, because you guys are young. You guys are in middle school, and you have a whole life ahead of you, and you don't know where life's going to take you, because I never thought I would go through a life that I did. And then he's the only one who's going to be by your side day by day, hour by hour. I think we sang that song, right? Second by second. And there's no one else who's going to be by you when no one else is around. Hope that made sense. So my takeaway with you guys, there's some, yes, this is Jordan again. This is 6th grade. His face looks so little. Yeah, I got to experience life with evolution, even in my highest blessings. Anyways, okay, so takeaway is walk with Jesus daily, starting today, okay? You're never alone. And if you guys, I don't know how you guys have the fill out forms, but Jesus is our rock and refuge, and I can testify to that. He's been my rock, and he's been my refuge where I needed to hide and find comfort. And when you're standing on the ground and it seems to shake and it's not stable and you guys are feeling weak at the knees, like he is our rock. We're going to cling on to him. And start a personal relationship with him today. And that's how faith is built. You know, you put all of your strength in your weakness and put it onto him. And it's okay to share your frustrations and your sadness and even your excitement and your joy, like everything. Like God wants to hear everything about what's going on in your life. And then love and trust with all your might. Because he never fails. And then us advisors, whether you guys know it or not, you guys are all seen, as I mentioned, you guys are all seen and heard. Whether you're checking in with us, or if you guys are playing games, or whether you guys are talking, or if you guys are giving each other high fives, things like that, you guys are all seen and heard. And you may not know what you're going to go through, but please reach out to any one of us advisors, okay? I'm going to probably be the most weathered one because I've just been through so much. But each one of us, no issue is hard for us to pray upon, okay? And everything is shared in private unless you guys are at harm. So there will be days where your teachers, your parents are going to be unfair, your friends are going to backstab you. I mean, all this it's all going to happen right now. So anything else, you guys can come to us and help us to walk alongside with you, or you can walk alongside with us, and we might be going through some things. And think of us as big brothers and big sisters. And Hebrews 13:7, it's back to back. So that's not your memory verse, but it's going to lead to your memory verse. But Hebrews 13:7 says, "Remember your leaders who spoke the word of God to you. Consider the outcome of their way of life and imitate their faith." And so your memory verse is Jesus Christ is the same yesterday and today and forever. That's Hebrews 13:8. Thanks for letting me share my life with you guys. And I'm so thankful for Auntie Sally. Oh, that's a close-up of Jordan, of him in 6th grade. He's a blessing. And I've been so thankful that Todd is also leading, but Auntie Sally, right? So.
Awesome. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you. Look at little Jordan. All right, let's give Jenny a round of applause. Thank you, Jenny, for sharing. Awesome. Like Jenny said, so thankful that, man, you can hear from all of the different leaders, all of our leaders here that just want to share their lives with you. Some of them have grown up in the youth ministry, grown up in church, and just all the different ways that God has brought them here. I think it's amazing and it's a special opportunity. But we're not done yet. We still have one more leader. So let's look back at the Guess Who Pokemon shadow thingy. You guys have 4 facts, and we'll see if you can guess who this next leader is. You're already guessing Scott. Well, let's see. Let's look at the first one. Does this sound like Scott? Likes to play games, but not into sports. Are you sure? Scott plays some sports. All right, number 2. Lived in Hawaii, but don't love the beach. My English is bad. I'm so sorry. Who used to live in Hawaii but doesn't like the beach? I don't know. Number 3. Likes watching pet videos but doesn't have any pets. It's a contradiction. Faith. Does Faith have pets? And then number 4. Never wears shoes in the house. Staple. I think a lot of us can. Some of you guys are like, what? Why would you even do that? All right, let's hear some guesses. Scott? Auntie Sally? You're right, it's Auntie Sally. So let's welcome up Auntie Sally, who's going to share with us. Good guess.
Good guess. So who said, how can you live in Hawaii and not love the beach? There's sand, and there's creatures in the water. Like, no. I mean, it's and the beaches are nice. The water is clean in Hawaii, but the waves are rough, depending on where you go. I'm not a good swimmer, so that's another reason I don't like the beach. And it's hot, and I'd rather be in the air conditioning. So that's me. So let's pray real quick before I start, okay? Bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity for me to share. And I pray, Father, that everyone here will have open hearts to just what I have to share today. I pray that you take my life and what I'm going to share today, and you use it, Father, for your glory. So we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. So I have some pictures for you. This is the younger me. I had to really scrape to find some of these pictures. So that's my baby picture. And the one on the top in the middle is me playing croquet on the front lawn. You guys even know what that is? Like we didn't have like video games, right? We only had like this small little TV in our house. That was my favorite stuffed animal. Was my what is that? A dinosaur? I'm not even sure what that is now. But apparently, that was my favorite stuffed animal. That's a birthday party up in the corner on the top. I'm in the middle with the little bow in my hair and all my friends. I grew up in an area here in California, in Culver City, area where there were a lot of kids around my age. I lived right across the street from the elementary school. So, there were a lot of friends around. And then I moved to Hawaii it's the summer right after 8th grade. So I was 14 years old. And the reason that my family moved to Hawaii was my parents were originally from Hawaii, and they had come to California. They met, they got married, they had their kids. But then my dad had an opportunity to run his own business in Hawaii. And so he decided, well, now's the time to go. So we went. And he ran an auto repair shop, which was very successful. And so it was a good financial move for the family, but it was a really, really awkward time to move. So how many of you guys are around 14? Anybody 14? So think about that, like picking up your whole life, leaving all your friends behind, to move to a different state where you can't even like drive to go visit, right? Because it's too far away. It's a 5-hour plane ride. And so that was a really hard time for me. It was really hard to make friends. You would think, I'm Asian. There's a lot of Asians there. I could kind of blend right in. But I don't talk like them. Like everybody kind of has that Hawaiian pidgin accent. I wasn't familiar with all their foods that they ate. There were just so many things. Even the clothes that I wore. I remember I wore a sweater one day because I had a lot of sweaters because I lived in California. And who wears a sweater in Hawaii, right? And people would tease me just for what I'm wearing, the girls would wear muumuus on Friday. It was like Aloha Friday. I didn't know what a muumuu was. It's like a Hawaiian dress with the Hawaiian flowers on it, but I didn't even have one, right? So there were a lot of things that just made me kind of stand out, and it was really hard to make friends. It was a really, really awkward time for me. The kind of black and white picture, that's my middle school picture there. And then the far one is my high school graduation picture. So high school, I'm in Hawaii. And so just so you know, junior high, so when we moved, it was right before 9th grade. But 9th grade now is high school, but back then it was middle school still. So I'm going into middle school. So it's not like I'm going into high school and everybody's new at high school, and so everybody's looking to make friends. This is like a weird situation where I'm going into the oldest class and everybody already has all their established friends, right? So fast forward, so I also went to college in Hawaii. I went to UH, met my future husband, and I ended up moving back to California and getting married and having a family. So who am I today? I am a wife, and that's my husband right there, Todd. And then next to that is my mom, and then my picture of my mom and my dad with my son. My parents were both born in Hawaii. I have 2 kids, Rachel and Kyle. So that's a picture on the far end where they're pretty young. They're 5 years apart. And the bottom picture in the center, I'm also a sister. Those are my 2 sisters. So I'm in the blue. My older sister is Susan. My younger sister is Leslie. And the age gap between Susan and Leslie is 13 years. And I'm like right in the middle. So it wasn't like when we moved that my sisters were my best friends because we were so far apart in age, right? When we moved, my older sister was in college, right? And then my younger sister was only in 2nd grade. So it wasn't like we were besties, right? So even more lonely, right? My mom had to help my dad with the business. It was just very awkward. Anyway, and then this picture right here is a recent picture from Todd's wedding. Do you recognize that? That's my family. My kids are all grown up now. My daughter is 28. My son is 23. They both graduated from college, and they are working, functioning adults. So I did a good job. Okay, some of the things that I enjoy. I like traveling. So that picture on the top there is when we travel to Hawaii to go back to visit my relatives, right? Down on the bottom, I love to play board games. We have board game night a lot of times with my family. And I'm getting into the more sophisticated games like Catan. I'm kind of crafty. I like all different kinds of crafts, doing crafts. I like plants, so we went to the botanical gardens for Mother's Day. I like to cook, and I like to eat. They go hand in hand. And that small picture there, okay, I know that's kind of weird, but I really like to read nutrition labels. When I'm in the market and I buy food, and I'm like comparing, oh, should I buy this brand or that brand? I actually turn it around, and I look at the nutrition label, and then I decide which one I'm going to buy. I know that seems kind of weird, but as a parent, when you become parent, you're going to get it, okay? You're going to go, oh, okay, that makes sense. You wouldn't believe what's in some of the foods you eat. Okay, so next slide. So this slide, I consider like my extended family. This is like my church family. And it's pretty much totally all-encompassing for me because I work at the church. So this here is a lot of the church staff at Todd and Nicole's wedding. We're all there to celebrate with them. The 2 other pictures over here are youth leaders. You might recognize some of them. But I've been serving in youth ministry for 15 years. I've been working for the church for 18 years. For 3 years, I ran kids crew before that. And the picture on the top is my life group. So that's like my Bible study group. And I consider them my sisters. And we actually call our life group Sister Act. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that movie. It's named after a movie. But, you know, we're all sisters. We care for each other. We love each other. We take care of each other. We have people who have gone through health and illness situations, cancer, and everyone rallies around and we take care of each other just like they're our real brother or sister. So the majority of, people in my life, they're all my church extended family. And let me see. The one thing, so that's a lot of people. I meet a lot of people. I meet all your kids. I meet all your parents at one time or another. I try to keep everyone's name straight, but sometimes I get it wrong, so I apologize. But, the best person that I ever met was Jesus. And I just want to tell you a little bit about that because Jesus is always there. So no matter what I go through, no matter what I struggle with, if I'm down, especially like when you watch during the pandemic, when we were watching the news every day and everything was like so depressing and, we have to stay home another how many months? And we have to do everything on Zoom, and everything was really, really sad and depressing. You hear about all these people dying and getting sick. knowing Jesus really helped me through that. You know, I know in my heart that when I run into trouble that God's going to fight the battle for me, that I can have peace in my heart when I'm anxious or upset because I know that God's there and he's going to take care of things for me. I know that when things are really dark and dim because there's so much bad news, that Jesus is going to shine the light. And I don't have to be so worried about what's going to happen next because he's on our side. He's fighting that battle for us. And he's going to protect us. He's our protector. And I especially like that one at the end because I'm kind of a worrywart. I like to control things. And when I can't control things, I worry. But all those years of worrying about my kids growing up, what are they going to be like? Oh my gosh, they're injured again. Like all these different things happened in their lives. But God helped to keep me calm because he's there and I don't have to be fearful. So Jesus is the best person in my life. So I have a question for you. So when do you think that I met Jesus? So I have a slide here for you with a few options. And I kind of want to see just a show of hands. There's 6 different options. So only raise your hand for one of them. How many of you think that I met Jesus in middle school? Okay, so there's like 3. Okay, how about high school? Okay, a little bit more. How about college? Okay, more. How about after college when I was still a single adult? Okay, that's a good number. How about after I got married but before I had kids? Okay. And how about after I had kids? Okay. The answer is Scott, you're wrong. Jenny, you're wrong. I didn't meet Jesus until I was 38 years old, married with 2 kids. My father had just died. 9/11 just happened. And I also got really, really sick with meningitis. So all those things kind of happened all in a row. And I ended up quitting my job because they said that meningitis that I got was kind of stress related. And so I quit my job. My husband and I decided I'm gonna stay home and take care of the kids and not work for a little while. And yeah, it was a really stressful time. And at that time, after 9/11 happened, you guys know about that, right? You learned that in history? My husband, out of the blue, not a churchgoer, said, I think we need to go to church. And I was like, okay. And I had never gone to church. When I was really little, my parents used to drop me out of Buddhist church. That was when I lived in California. But once we went to Hawaii, like no church at all. And so we're just like, okay, so what do? We don't know of any churches. We don't know the differences between different types of churches. And so we mentioned it to a friend, and she said, oh, we just started going to church at South Bay Community Church. Why don't you come with us? And they invited us. Isn't that amazing? Alexa's like, what? And we started coming, and we never left. And that's how I met Jesus, because I came to service, and I learned about why did God just send Jesus? And it was all by being here. And, it was kind of weird going to church when you're not used to going to church, and you don't know anything about going to church, but you make the commitment to go, and you be consistent about going, and you will learn whether you want to or not, because God, when you show up, God is there, and he's going to meet you. He'll be there for you, and all these things that you might read in the Bible, and you're like, I don't get it. Just keep reading, because he's going to help you to understand it, and it'll become relevant at certain points in your life when you really need it. So Okay. So as I look at this right here, I think about all those years, like when I was 38 and I met Jesus, and how old are you guys? 11, 12, 13, 14, right? So, man, if I had met Jesus when I was your age, this would have impacted my life for an extra, like how many years is that? A lot of years, right? All those things that I struggle with, all those life milestones that you have, like, oh my gosh, I have to pick a college, I have to figure out what to major in. You just run into all these life issues. And when you really need something to help you keep going, something to help you to point you in the right direction, like I really felt like, now in hindsight, as I look back on my life, if I had had Jesus in my life back then, that would have been a game changer. So as I look at all of you, you guys are so blessed to be able to come here and to know God at an early age, because you got your whole life ahead of you and life happens. You're going to have so many things happen in your life, even taking the SAT test when you get in high school. You got to do college applications. You're going to have maybe boyfriend-girlfriend issues or friend drama, right? Like, you guys know, right? Friend drama. Like, friend drama is not fun. You're gonna meet people. You may or may not get married. You may or may not have kids. You may struggle with singleness. Who knows what's going to happen in your life? But if you start your relationship now with God, then you're way ahead of everybody else. So, with this in mind, as I'm thinking back, how come nobody told me about Jesus when I was in middle school, right? Well, as I was reading the Bible, in one of my Bible studies, one of these verses came up, and it really made me ask, well, how can people actually meet Jesus if somebody doesn't introduce him, right? It's like a light bulb went off in my head. Like, how do you know about Jesus if nobody tells you? Like, if you grow up in a family that doesn't go to church, that never mentions God, how do you know? And I'm sure that all of you have friends and classmates, teammates that are in that same situation, that they don't know who God is. They've never even heard of who God is. They don't never heard the name Jesus, or if they did, somebody was using it like a swear word, right? You've seen that happen, right? And so how can people know about Jesus unless somebody introduces them? Well, there's actually a Bible verse for that, and it's Romans 10:14. And I put the NIV version up here. You guys all have NIV Bibles. I'm going to read it to you. Then I'm going to show you a different version that's a little bit easier to understand. But it says, "How then can they call on the one that they have not believed in? And how can they believe in the one of whom they have not heard? And how can they hear without someone preaching it to them?" So there's a lot of words in there. But take a look at the NLT version. It's a little bit easier to understand. And it says, "But how can they call on him to save them unless they believe in him? And how can they believe in him if they have never heard about him? And how can they hear about him unless someone tells them?" So as you think about that, it's exactly what was going through my head. How can people know if somebody doesn't tell them? So my challenge to you is that you can introduce them to Jesus. You don't have to be a preacher. You don't have to be a pastor. You don't have to be a Bible scholar. But you can introduce someone to Jesus by inviting them to church. And it's something that's so simple. If somebody, when I was in middle school, having just moved to Hawaii, if somebody had invited me to church, that would have been a game changer for me. And there's so much upside to knowing Jesus. Why wouldn't you want that for your friends? Okay, so I know some of you are like, I don't know how to do that. I'm scared. Right? It's not easy. It wasn't easy for me as an adult to tell people I was going to church because I wasn't a churchgoer. But the one thing that you have to remember is that God is always with us. So we don't have to be afraid to share our faith because God is with us. And this verse, Joshua 1:9, I have this over my fireplace, my mantle. And it's kind of, I know Cammie talked about a life verse, kind of my life verse. It's one of those life verses, something that you kind of sticks with you through your life. And it's one of the first verses that I ever had to teach in kids crew. And so it kind of means something for me, but I'm going to read it to you. It says, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." So if I challenge you to invite a friend and you're scared or you don't know what to do, just remember that all you have to do is show up and God will help you. He's always with you no matter where you go. And it's up to you if you're going to take a step of faith and do it or you're not going to trust in God. I hope that you will trust in God. So that's it for me.